Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back to work over on this governor that goes on the case steam engine. Now, previously I had taken this thing completely apart. We cleaned it up and kind of evaluated to see what was potentially wrong with it and what we could do to improve it. They were having some issues with it, not wanting to adjust outright, and we did find a couple little small problems in here that we need to make a few new parts for in order to get it going back together. The first one is a stem. This is a valve stem that goes down to the valve down in the bottom part of the governor. This is a little piece of brass or bronze. It's got a little bushing on the end that holds it in, and basically this just lifts that valve, that spool valve, up and down to adjust it the amount, to allow the right amount of steam to come in for the application. This one here, it was a two-piece design. This is just a piece that goes on it, but it was just a piece of solid brass, and it kind of had a little bushing pinned on the end here. This is really loose and worn. And I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to make a new one, but I'm going to make a one-piece rather than a two-piece one like this one that shouldn't have that problem going forward. Let me zoom in here, show you what we got, and we're going to get to work making this new piece. So this is the original part, as far as I can tell, that was in here. The original, again, made from brass, and you've got the stem here, the main part that goes up and down. This was 3/8 inch diameter. And looks like what they did originally was they just took a piece of a bushing and put up on the end there and pinned it in place. Now that bushing is, what is that? 0.5625, so that's 9/16 of an inch. And again, it's just pressed up on there and has a pin in it, and there's a fair amount of play in there, as you can probably see, probably about 1/8 of an inch of play. Not a lot, but when you look at that function of this adjusting that spool valve, that could make a significant difference in how much steam is getting past that valve. So I think what we're going to do, instead of making a two-piece valve like the originals, we're just going to turn this out a piece of solid. I happen to have a piece of 9/16 inch brass here. This is actually something that was left over from another project that I was working on a while back, and the large outside diameter is the same diameter as the large end of this. And I think what we're going to do is we're just going to take this and turn it to, just turn this out of a one piece rather than having a two-piece construction. That way it can't get loose again. I'm sure that the reason they did it this way was just a cost-saving measure. You know, using a little bit less brass, not having as much waste, but I think making out a one-piece piece here will actually make this a little bit of an improvement. And since I got the material here, we're just going to use it. So we're going to head over to the lathe, and basically we're just going to turn a shaft down here 3/8, and I'll leave a little piece on the end for our stem to go down. So let's go to the lathe and get that knocked out. I got my piece of bronze in here. I want to start out by facing the front of this and then putting a center in there. Since it's going to be such a long piece, we're going to need some support. So let's start with that. Come in here and touch off. And just face that. We need to raise up our cutter just a touch. A little bit more. There we go. And we'll come in here with a center drill and put a little center in the end of this. Got a very small, fine center drill, so I'm going to go real slow here, not break that off. All right, that should give us a center for support. Just going to use my original here to get the length. Put a mark on there. That will be where I turn to. Now we can go ahead and start turning this out. Taking about 100 thousandths off the diameter here. check this now, see where we're at, and also see if I got any taper in this. About 485. And we're running pretty good. We're going to 375, so I got about another 100 thousandths to take off this. I think I'm going to do it in 2 passes though. So I'll do 50 and then we'll finish up. Tell you what, I'll do 60. 2, 4, 6. Taking about 40 thousandths on this pass. Just sneaking up on that final measurement there. With this being a long piece like this, I want the last pass to be really light. Just because you're going to get some flex in the middle, it's going to want to push on it. So the lighter the cut, the less impact that's going to have. I was noticing on that cut, it was a little bit larger in the middle than it was on the ends, and that's just because this part's flexing while we're cutting it. We can get around that by taking very light passes, particularly on the final couple of passes. All right, it's down the bottom end is pretty much on size. We got a little bit larger in the middle and pretty much on size on the end. So I think what I'm gonna do is just take some emery cloth and kind of polish this out. It's just got some flex there, particularly in that center section. So we can just massage it to get to the final dimensions that we want. All right, I did a little polishing and we're measuring right on 375 all the way down. It's always a little bit difficult when you got a long, thin part like this to get a uniform diameter. We were within a couple of thou. It just took a couple of minutes of sanding and we got it all evened out. Sometimes it's just what you got to do. All right, so up next, we need to basically just part this thing off. Before I do, I want to put a little chamfer up on the top of that stem. We'll just come in here with this. That's pretty good. And now we get a parting tool. I'm going to take the tailstock off of this. Don't really want that support out there, and I'm just going to use again the original part to kind of measure the thickness of that. It's not a really critical measurement, and we're going to part it off right there. I am just kind of supporting the end of this to keep it from wobbling around a lot and also to catch it when it falls off. Getting right down there to the bottom now. There we go. I'll hit that on the belt sander and knock it off. I'll tell you what, we'll just flip it around and do it on the lathe. Let me do that. Remove our stock. I'm going to put our other piece in backwards this time. piece off the end there. There we go. And we'll also just put a little chamfer on, just break those corners. And get on the inside as well. All right. Because that surface was kind of rough on that, I'm just going to hit it with a little emery there. It was extruded surface, and that'll just kind of clean it up a little bit. All right, I think we're done with our turning. All right, so we've got our new valve stem turned, and the height of it looks just fine. I want to kind of check it out with some of the components over here. So this is going to fit down into this valve seat, and this little piece here will screw down there and kind of capture it in place. But one thing I know we need to do is that there is a pin that goes through this and basically captures this nut like such on there. So I need to drill a hole. This is a 1/8 inch dowel pin. I need to drill a hole through there and ream it for a press fit for that dowel pin. So let me get that done. There's a hole in the top of this, and this connects it to this little adjuster right here where you can adjust it to another piece. This one has a tapered pin that pins it in place. This pin here is a tapered pin, and I've had really bad luck trying to use an existing taper hole to drill a new taper hole. So I think what we're going to do is we will put the new rod in, and I'm just going to drill a new hole through this 90 degrees to the other one, and we'll ream that out for a new tapered pin to go in there and pin that in place. So that's kind of my game plan here. We're going to start with the dowel pin down here on the bottom and get that one put in there for that 1/8 inch dowel. All right, we're over at the mill machine now, and we're getting ready to go ahead and drill that hole that we'll use for the dowel that's just going to go in here. So I've got a drill bit that's a little under 1/8 inch, and I've got a reamer that is a 1/2 thousandths under 1/8 inch, which would give us a good press fit for that dowel pin to go down into. So we're going to drill and ream that hole over here on the mill. Let's get set up and get this centered up so that we can do that. All right, for work holding here, I'm going to use a V-block over here in the vise. We're just going to basically put our part in here, put it into the vise, and that V-block will support it and keep it running nice and parallel to the bottom of the vise, and give it support. One side will be pushing on two sides against one side and the other, so I've got 3 points of contact. That typically makes a nice stable platform to hold anything round in the vise like this. All right, I've got an edge finder over here. We're going to find the center of the hole, of the shaft, and then we can drill it out. I've got an edge finder in here. We're going to drop this down and find the edge on the front, then the back. So just going to bring this in. When that part scoots over, I'm right on the edge, right there. I'm going to zero out my digital readout. I usually just double check it to verify, make sure I'm in the same spot, and I am. So now we will go to the back side, do the same thing. Come in there and find the edge. Moving the table real slow until it moves over, and then it'll be right in line with it. And now I can go over here and just half that on my digital readout. This is going to find where the two parts are running perfectly adjacent to one another. We measured that distance. We'll take half of that, and when we take half of that, that'll put us right in the center of the shaft. And I got a drill bit in here. This was a number drill bit. It's about 5 thousandths undersized. I don't remember the exact number, but It is a little bit under 5/1000 under an eighth of an inch. Let's go ahead and drill it out. So we'll just come down. I may have to get a starter to drill. Okay, I think we got it started there. Go ahead and drill that all the way through. All right. Go ahead and take that one out. And I have a reamer here that we will take it to the size we're looking for. And again, this reamer is about it is 1/2 of a thousandth undersize. So it's 1/2 of a thousandth under an eighth of an inch. And we'll just take that and that'll get that hole precision right to where we want it to be. All right. I'm over here at the arbor press, and I'm going to go ahead and get this pin pressed in. I've got a V-block here to support it, and I got a little bit larger one than needed, but I wanted one that had a slot down here that this pin would kind of go down below so that when we press it in there, it has some place to go. I'm going to start by just kind of see if I can get that pin just kind of started. I'm going to tap it in here. And then we will come down with the arbor press. And see if I can press it in place here. All right, I'm up against the V-block. So what I need to do is come up. I've got just a punch here that I'm going to put in there in between these to kind of drive it that last little bit home. Let's see where we're at here. All right, we're just about flush on the bottom. It needs to come out a little bit more, come down a little bit more. All right, I think that's fine. This pin is a little bit long. It needs to be kind of flush with the head there on that side. I'm going to just take this over to the belt sander, grind that pin down where it's flush, and I think we'll be good. I didn't have one that was 9/16, I had to go with a 5/8, so it is a little bit on the long side. And to grind it, we'll just use our Ameribraid grinder here, and just get it in there flush with the outside diameter of that. Do it. And there we go. I think we're good. So there's our little pins in there. Again, this little piece here comes over. There's a slot that engages those, and then that screws down into the top of the valve here and captures everything in place. And I'm not ready to put this together yet, but you can kind of see how things go here. All right, next we need to get the hole in the top up here in the tapered pin drilled out for that. And again, that's going to fit up into this piece, and we just need to drill it and ream it with a tapered reamer for a tapered pin. So let me go get set up to do that, and we'll get that knocked out as well. Just been getting ready to drill this. We're going to again drill all the way through all of this and then ream it for a tapered pin. And I have got a brand spanking new tapered pin here. This is a number 1, and it's 1 inch long. The taper on this and all tapered pins are all standard tapered pins, is 1/4 inch per foot. So the taper, for every 12 inches, it will shrink in diameter by 1/4 of an inch, or 0.250 inches. To do this, again, we'll use a reamer. I've got a reamer. This is a #1 reamer that should be for the size for this one. And what I need to do is drill a hole that's just big enough to clear the small end of my reamer, which is 150 thousandths. So I'm gonna go find a drill bit that's as close to that as I can go. 5/32 is 0.156, so 6 thousandths over, which will be fine, I'm sure. But we'll find a reamer close to that, or a drill bit close to that. I may look and see if I got a number drill bit that's a little bit closer to that or 0.150, and we'll drill this through, ream it, and install our pin. Thought I'd show my setup here real quick. It's kind of clunky, but it's going to work. I basically was looking for a way to clamp this valve into the vise. I've got it kind of blocked out and raised up or whatever, where, this is just in here where like it needs to be. We do have this clamped. The shaft is in there. It's a little bit loose, but I think it's going to be fine for what we're doing here. We're going to drill that hole all the way through and then ream it, and we should be able to set our pin after that. So let's fire it up and do it. We'll just come down here, get a hole started. There we go. I'm going to drill that all the way through, and that is up a little bit from the bottom. So it should have room for that drill bit to come out the bottom and not go right into the vise. There we go. Clear all the way through. Just kind of clean that up a little bit. Now for the reamer, I've got this in a hand reamer. The reason is that this particular reamer that I've got here is designed to be a hand reamer. It's not designed for power reaming. I have broken these before trying to power ream them. I've got some power reamers in these tapered pins, but I don't have one this size. So we're just gonna do it by hand a little bit at a time. And this reamer's just gonna go down and waller out that hole, but it's gonna do it at a very precise taper, and should make that pin fit nice and snug in there once it's all said and done here. So give me just a couple of minutes, just take a few minutes of doing it by hand. I can look up underneath the end of it, and when I see that reamer just starting to poke through, I'll start test fitting it with the pin, and we'll ream it until we get it where we have a nice fit for the length. All right, I'm over here at the bench now, just kind of continuing on, and what I'm finding you need to do is just kind of start it and do a couple of turns and pull this reamer out, clear it of the chips, and do it again. And that seems to be cutting pretty quick, so we'll just continue doing that. You can kind of feel it when it kind of bogs down. And as I'm doing this, I will check the depth of that pin. I basically want this to be flush on this side when you tap it in place, and it will tap in place probably 1/8 of an inch, 3/16, something like that. So you want to leave it a little bit proud and tap it in place once you kind of get to that point. So I'm just going to continue doing this until we get it where it needs to be, and we will have that done. See where we are now. That is going to be about right. When we tap that in place, perfect. That pin sticking out just a tad on that side and on that side, it's going to be just right. Okay. So I'm ready to go ahead and start assembling this. So I'm going to start by putting the little nut on here that engages in the pin that we put on the bottom, and then that is going to screw down into the top of this spool valve. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up, and I want that flat to be kind of even with this little tab over here. That's nice and tight, and I'm going to take a hammer and kind of tap that back down. Once I get it tight, I've actually tightened it up so that that flat is in line with this little tab over here that we had to bend out before. And now I'm just going to take a hammer and just kind of peen that back over. All right, and that'll prevent that bolt from loosening back up now. It's locked in place. So we got a nice tight fit. There's no up and down movement in that at all. Everything looks good. So let's go ahead and finish assembling this bottom part of this gear valve. Now we've got the bottom part of the valve that the spool valve fits down into, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of drop this down in place. And again, nice fit in there. And that rod was really loose before, but it's nice and tight now, which is like it needs to be. And from there, we've got the cap that goes on here. There's some packing down inside this little piece right here that helps keep the steam in there. It will probably need to be repacked once they get it back at the museum. I don't have the packing for that. I'm hoping that they probably do. It's a pretty standard thing if you're working on these to have the right packing to go with these, but I'll let them worry with that. Let me get a wrench and we'll tighten that back up. Got this back over in my big vise, and I'm going to just use a big wrench. This is a 2 1/4 inch wrench to tighten that back up on the top. And that's nice and tight. All right. Just making sure that valve is still going up and down like it should. Feels really good. Now I need to put my packing valve, packing gland in here. So again, there's some packing down inside this hole. This little piece right here slips over and goes down in there and kind of compresses that. So as it wears, you just tighten this up and that repacks that. It's getting close to being at the extent that it needs another round of packing in it. But again, I'm going to let the guys we're making this for worry about that. And then you just tighten this nut up on the top, and that tightens that packing up in that hole as well. All right, that feels really good. We got everything tightened up here. Nice and tight like it needs to be. And let's see, this pin, yep, it's going to go in that direction. And I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm not going to tap it in place because I'm probably going to have to take this off when I put it together over there. Here we go. There we go. All right. So I think this is as far as I'm going to go in this video today. I've still got to do some stuff to the top section that fits on here before it's ready to fully put together, and that's going to be another video in itself where we start working on the bearings for the flywheel and or the shaft that's going to be putting the speed and turning the balls up top. So we'll come back to that in an upcoming video, but I'm really happy with how all this came together. I think we've made a big improvement. Like I said, when we took this thing apart before, there was a lot of just slop and movement in this valve that we've taken out now by making this new rod in here. And I really think that that was probably the bulk of the problem with this. So we're going to work on getting those bearings in that top piece worked out, and hopefully we'll have everything back together where they can put this back on their steam engine and make it work like it's supposed to. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted to the site. And as always, a big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon and PayPal. Really enables me to be able to take the time to shoot these videos, edit the videos, and everything that goes along with it. It takes a lot of time to do that. And your additional support really enables me to do that. There's information for that down in the description below if that's something you want to help out with. With that, guys, we are going to sign off, and we will catch you on the next video. Again, thanks for watching.